Okay, that was intense, I'd say. Welcome back to my channel, Smirking Gun. I'm Rob. We are here for this week's latest episode of Game of Thrones, which is Season 6, Season 7, Episode 6, sorry, Beyond the Wall. And since this is the penultimate episode of the season, it does not disappoint as far as the show goes. Usually the episode before the last episode is usually the craziest. And wow. Wow, 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 wow. Intense shit goes down. Uh, it's almost like how do you begin? Because there's very little to not talk about. That's not interesting in this story. So I'm gonna get to just there were only a couple of things really going on in this episode. So I'm just gonna cut to the Arya Sansa stuff. Let's get that talked about because I'm still not quite sure who's playing who. Everybody seems to be playing each other. Sansa, Arya confronts Sansa about the things she wrote, and the way she's confronting her, I don't know if she knows that it's bullshit. Like the way she's arguing with Sansa about, well, you can say that you're a kid and that you were pressured into doing these things, but, Lyanna Mormont might see it differently. Like, she's playing this that the only person that Sansa's worried about seeing this thing is the people of the North, which means that Sansa is really worried about losing her bannermen or Jon's bannermen, and if Jon doesn't come back, like, it's very the political stuff between Arya and Sansa and Littlefinger happening at Winterfell is really like I honestly cannot figure out where it's gonna go. The whole thing where they're talking about Brienne and how she swore an oath to Catelyn to protect both her daughters, and then suddenly Sansa's telling Brienne to go to King's Landing for this thing that they've got going. And even though I know that somebody has to go, it just seemed like odd timing after that conversation about Brienne that she's being sent off so that Sansa stays. And I know why Sansa's staying, because if both Jon and her are not there, then those people in the North are going to go nuts again. And that's something right there, is these people in the North are kind of very wishy-washy people. They seem to allow their allegiances to turn lately, very quickly, because it seemed like ever since Ned, once they lost Ned and then Robb, they pretty much don't know what the hell to do with themselves. They're kind of a weak ass group of people, in my opinion, if they change their course so quickly. Now I know that each of these houses have to think about other people and everything else, but for the fact that there are centuries of the Starks being in charge, you think that the ingrained feeling to trust the Starks when they do things should be like with these people, and lately it just seems like there's no faith in them at all, just because they've had some bad years. We're not talking about centuries, we're talking about a few bad years. So I don't know, the Northmen can kind of suck it, in my opinion, a little bit. Just not Lyanna Mormont, she kicks ass as always. But the whole thing where Sansa finds Arya's faces and the way Arya approaches it, I didn't know if I was talking to Arya anymore. Even the Arya from earlier in the scenes, it seemed like she was a completely different person. Some theories, and I have not put it out of my mind, that maybe this isn't even Arya at all. Maybe this is the Waif. Maybe when the lights went out back in Braavos, maybe Arya didn't get out of there. Maybe it really is the Waif still. It's a long shot. I don't think it, personally, I mean, I have to think of the angles, kind of a Littlefinger thing to do, but I doubt that's what's happening. But at this point in the game, I wouldn't be surprised about anything that happens on this show. So I have to at least put that in there. It's probably not, but it doesn't seem like Arya even, I mean, she really has become so dark if it's really her, if this is really happening. And I just feel like she's smarter than that to fall for Littlefinger's shit. I mean, she was trying to play the game of, faces with Sansa, and that didn't last very long. That was kind of disappointing. Why didn't she force that issue? I don't know. So I don't know what the hell's going to happen in Winterfell. It is really up in the air. And Littlefinger, just when you think, he can't, he's played his last hand. And there he is. He's got more cards up his sleeve than a guy, trying to cheat in Vegas. So there's that. That's over. Let's move on to the real deal here, which is our Suicide Squad heading up beyond the wall to get a dead person to bring back, so that they can show Cersei that there really is something worse than what we're dealing with right now, which is each other. And I said this to my dad and last week. This is a bad idea. Bad plan. This is a bad plan. But hey, we need the drama to make the show interesting, right? So we got our little ragtag group of people that are heading up there to grab a dead person, and they don't disappoint to at least entertain. It was very funny, all the different interactions between people, especially like Tormund and the Hound, and how they talk about, oh, Brienne of Tarth? I know Brienne of Tarth, and it's that whole deal where the Hound's like, of course you're with Brienne of Tarth. And he's like, I'm not quite with her, but the way she looks at me, and everybody that's watching it right now would be like, you mean the way you're looking at her, dude? Like, the way he looks at her, and the way he sees her looking at him with that disdain, he thinks that's hot. He thinks that that's flirting. And that's great. That is really, really, really great. I really am happy to see Beric Dondarrion in more episodes. He was one of my favorite characters in the book, side characters anyway. And I really like the actor who plays him, and his priest. And we got to talk about the goddamn zombie polar bear, and not just a regular ass polar bear. This is a beyond the wall polar bear. So this fucker was really scary. And again, the Hound kind of poops his pants over fire again a little bit, kind of has a little bit of shell shock there, can't do nothing. And it kind of just is starting to get old with me, the whole fire thing. Like, there's got to be a moment where he overcomes that fear to help somebody. And I really thought it would have been right now. Now, he does eventually snap out of it, but I was kind of thought that was a little weak. Like, isn't it a little bit, how much longer are we going to do this? Whatever. But all that aside, there's... They find the little group of walkers. Jon takes out another White Walker with his sword, and then they all drop except for one, which had me going like, why the hell is just one still standing? And then you hear start screaming, and I'm like going, he's calling everybody, man. He's calling his troops, and lo and behold, the whole mist rolls in, the fog, and you know that the whole army's coming, and you turn around and you see that army, and it's like, Gendry, get your ass to Eastwatch. You're the fastest. Send a raven to Daenerys. Tell her we need her help. He takes off, gives Tormund his hammer. This is another one of those times in the series where you're going to have to suspend your disbelief in time and place and all sorts of shit. Like, apparently, people can move like really fast. Messages by Raven can get to places before people freeze to death or killed by White Walkers and dead people. But again, we're going to have to just swallow that pill of, holy shit, there's no way they would have gotten anywhere in time. And why aren't these White Walkers bum rushing them while they're trapped on this rock? It was a little strange. But, they were afraid that the ice was going to break. Why was the ice going to break above the north to me? That seemed odd. It's like freezing. Why is there thin ice up there? I really didn't understand that whole thing. But whatever. Again, the show's nearing an end. It's time to let them jump the shark every once in a while, I guess. So they're trapped. Gendry finally makes it to the wall. He says he needs a raven, and boom, they get to Daenerys charging up and Tyrion telling her not to go, which leads me to a little bit. Let's segue just slightly back to him and Tyrion and Daenerys' conversation, where it gets pretty hostile between the two of them, because she's a conqueror and he's a politician. He knows how to talk. She knows how to conquer. She's been doing it, since the beginning of the show. She's been conquering. She's had to deal with things, but she's been taking things over. She doesn't know the finite, things that Tyrion does. So, and this was that moment where they really butted heads pretty hardcore, and it was a little uncomfortable to watch for me, just to see these two have this kind of really, a real fight. It was really well written and really well acted, and I was just uncomfortable watching it, seeing two people that I really, like each other, have this discussion. And I didn't know whose side to really be on, because I see both sides of the thing. She is being impulsive at times, but he's not been right a lot lately. He's been caught with his pants down when it comes to his family. And so who you side with completely, there's got to be some sort of middle ground for both of them and for the viewer watching it. So she's, to get back to that, now she's decided to take her dragons and head up north, which again, bad idea, man, because I had commented on another person's website, Darren Jakes, I believe is his name, DW Jakes. He does reviews for Game of Thrones and other shows. You should check him out and subscribe if you check it out. I had commented, I was like, at this point, the only way to really up the ante is for a nice dragon. For a dragon to get killed up there and turn into a white. And, there was a person that commented, they've already got a giant. It's like, well, no, we're talking stakes here. The only way to really up these stakes is if Dany loses one of those fucking dragons. This was last week, before we knew this was coming, or before any leaks. So, as soon as I knew she was taking those dragons, I was like, here we go. Here we go. And they have this great epic fight. Yeah, man, I really thought Tormund was done. Oh man, I thought Tormund was done. It was bad enough that Beric's priest, his best friend, dies of his wounds. Surprisingly, he lasted after those wounds with the fire and everything, but whatever. They burn him, and they're having this fight. Tormund almost dies, and the Hound finally comes to his rescue, and it's like, some of the cinematography made me think of like the Lord of the Rings when they're getting surrounded by orcs, underneath, the Mines of Moria looking shit. But then, of course, when the dragons do come, and it's awesome, and everybody's like, probably like, yeah, watching it. Their reactions, live reaction videos are probably just, yeah, no, when it happens, because I knew it was as soon as I was wondering why they were all waiting anyway. And not just because of ice. Like, dude, there's so many of these things. They would end up piling over. They just run over each other. And if the White Walkers are right there, the Night's King is right there, what the hell are they waiting for? They're waiting for the fucking dragons. Pardon my French, by the way. But, when the Night King busts out that spear, I'm just like, this is it. Now, Dany's getting the people on her dragon's back, but at this point I was getting so, like, flustered. I didn't know which dragon was where. And I should have remembered. She always rides the big one. So when one of the two other dragons does get hit with this ice spear, and it's like, fudge, man. I knew it was coming, but it didn't make it any less effective. I was on the edge of my seat, literally, for pretty much most of this episode, and this part was no different. And when it went down, I was like, oh, God. And then Jon goes down. Tells Dany to get the hell out of here, because there's the Night King. He's ready for round 2. Jon lets himself get tackled, taken under the water. Dany takes off. The second spear misses. And you think, there's a dead dragon in the water. Jon's in the water. The White Walkers and the Night King are all walking away. And Dany's headed back to Eastwatch. And then, of course, Jon's not dead. because I don't know what can kill the son of a bitch at this point. Gets out of the water, and who saves him? Who comes out of nowhere to save our miserable hero? Out of nowhere, right as the whites and the White Walkers and the zombies or whatever you want to call them are about to get him, it's freaking Benjen Stark. I was so happy that this gives that character closure. That he left Bran at least for a reason, and that was to save Jon Snow's white ass. So he dies, but hey, come on, let's face it, everybody. He pretty much was dead already, and this was his great sacrifice. And it was so fitting to save Jon. In the very first episode, it was Jon and Benjen having that conversation about Jon going to the wall. So it was a very fitting ending for these two to meet suddenly again, just to lose each other again, but it just fits so well. And Dany sees Jon's wounds after he makes it back. He does make it back. They do the whole, let's wait one more minute for him to come back, and he comes back, and she now sees all the wounds on him. He can't hide that. They don't bring it up, but Jon does bend the knee. He calls her my queen. They know, she knows. She had to see it for herself, and now she knows that this is real, this is happening, and we have to fight these things together. If I'm missing anything, I'm very sorry. This was a great episode. Next week is the season finale. I have a feeling by the preview that it's going to be crazy too. It may not be as crazy as this, but let's hope that at least only one person dies in this. It's of great importance to everyone. And if it is somebody, let's hope it's somebody we wanted to see die and not somebody that we always are going to go, no! So anyway, again, fantastic episode. And right at the end, what were those chains for? How did they know that they needed those chains? Maybe that's why they weren't charging. Maybe they knew this was going to happen the whole time. Because the last thing is they drag that dragon out of the water and its eye turns blue. Called it, nailed it. Didn't like that I nailed it. Didn't like that I knew it was going to happen, but it happened. And it does to me explain why they didn't charge. That those guys knew at some point Dany was bringing her dragons up there, and they were ready for them. So that's scary how much maybe the Night King knows. It might have something to do with Bran. How much the Night King and Bran might be connected. Let's find out, hopefully, before the end of the series. Let's get some more answers on that. But anyway, we will see you next week for the season finale. This is Rob. Please like and subscribe my video if you like. And we will see you then. Man, ice dragons. Jesus Christ. See you later. Have a good night. Nope. I'm not going to have a good night until I can learn how to press stop.